small group, so friends and family here. Welcome to the Migration Summit. My name is Lorraine Charles, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the summit, and I'm also the executive director of NAMO. The Migration Summit 2023, organized by REACT NAMO Quran Foundation, is a month-long global convening designed to build bridges between all of our refugee learners, universities, companies, policymakers, employers, and governments around challenges and opportunities for refugees and migrant communities. This year, we're exploring the theme, co-creating pathways for learning, livelihoods, and dignity. And the song that you just heard is an example of what we're going to do today. And I'm so excited and pleased and overwhelmed to introduce my dear friend, Marieke, who I met a while ago. Marieke and Sarah I met ages ago, and I invited her in to join this community. So Marieke, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Like, honestly, so overjoyed.
Thank you so much for that amazing, warm welcome. I really feel like the Migration Summit is this global family. And I'm so excited for the melody and magic that's going to come together just from all of our voices today. So thank you so much for joining. So today we're going to share with you, I'm here with Sarah, and I'll give her a moment to introduce herself in just a second. But I just want to let you know, we have these 2 hours together, and we're going to share with you a participatory art method that we've used in Brussels together and in different contexts to write a song from a story. And so I'm Marika. I'm joining from Seattle, Washington in the United States. I'm a musician, writer, lots of different different elements of self, but just to say hello and offer a warm welcome. And then Sarah, do you want to say hello? I think you're muted, so you just have to unmute.
Okay, better?
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Sarah. I'm originally from the UK, but I've lived in Belgium for the last 40 years. I'm a poet, and I write children's stories, mostly about animals. And I work as a guardian for unaccompanied minors here in Belgium, which means I help them with their legal process and their educational and housing needs. And for the last 10 years, I've been doing poetry workshops with asylum seekers here in Brussels and organizing open mic evenings. And then in 2017, I met Marika, and we started working together, combining the poetry with music and song. So I know that there are people here from all over, and it would be great if you could also introduce yourselves. Maybe just say a little bit about yourself, maybe just your name, where you're from, and maybe one thing about yourself that you'd like to share. And I think we can maybe do it online. We don't need to do it in the chat, I think, because we're a small group.
We're a small group. So, I mean, I think that's a benefit of having just a smaller group. If anyone wants to, I mean, just like let you know, there's no time that you have to be or singing or sharing. Just being here in support is really just so important already. But if anybody wants to unmute and say hello, that would be lovely.
Hello. I'm Lana Cook. I'm joining from Massachusetts, USA, and I'm here with the MIT Refugee Action Hub. I'm excited to be in community with you all today.
Hey, hi, Lana.
That's lovely. Okay, super.
And I know just in the chat, people have been joining. We've got from Maryland, we've got Massachusetts, UK, Belgium. So we've already got Uruguay, different countries represented. So okay, people are shy.
Yeah, I could also jump in and say hi, also from REACT in the organizing committee. But actually, yeah, since the very first time I met Marika, I was very excited to hear about her and Sarah's very innovative work, and I'm very excited to build this together and to see how this actually works. And yeah, excited to contribute and also just learn too.
Nice. Hey, my mom and dad joined, so this really is family. And that's something that's so magical about what we do at in a really short time, you can take people who have never met from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different cultures, religion, politics, and create this really strong feeling of community and connection. So I think let's go ahead and start. So I want to share a quote from a researcher, I think she's in Ireland, and she does participatory artwork with migrants. And this is part of I think just the why behind specifically, just within the migration narrative, creating a space for people to share their first person accounts of migration and forced displacement. So she writes, asylum seekers, refugees, and migrants are often represented in the mainstream media as nameless and usually by others, never themselves. And this creates a space for othering and the withdrawal of humanizing practice. So I think, for me, just thinking about so many of the people that Sarah and I have met and worked with who really felt like they didn't have a lot of agency and control in their asylum process and how their story was being told and how they were being portrayed as refugees, as migrants. I think it's so important for any person really, but especially a person who's having their story told by someone else who might have an agenda or be promoting that sense of othering. It's so important to invite people to share their authentic voices, especially in this day and age where there's so much pressure to assimilate. Some of the different sessions that I've joined have talked about the fact that really integration instead of assimilation is so important. And that even within, spaces where there's promotion of education and services, there's still voices that are not being heard. Women's voices, in particular, that was one of the sessions. And Sarah and I, just in talking before the session, we're talking about the fact that in an ecosystem, if we follow what we've learned from nature, if you have one species of tree in a forest, it's not going to be a healthy ecosystem. So the more voices, the more authentic experience we share. I mean, it's pretty countercultural, So what we're doing right now is we're actually starting a revolution right here. Okay, so with that, Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about how we met and the poetry work that you did in Brussels? And then I'll move into talking a little bit more about the method itself so that we can kind of dive in.
Sure.
I'm going to share my screen so that I can share this. Hang on.
So I've been doing this work since 2010. It started off with a project together with the Refugee Center and the library, which was like a series of writing workshops, culminating in an exhibition called Letters from Brussels, which were like stories in the form of letters about people's experiences of leaving their country and starting a new life in Belgium. And after the project was finished, we wanted to continue this in some way. So I started offering weekly poetry sessions where we would look at poems and poets from different countries and discuss them as a starting point to writing our own. And we had some great discussions, and it was a good experience, but I felt we didn't really reach many people this way. It was kind of too classroom based, inside a room with the door closed. And beforehand, I would go around the dining room. This is the Refugee Center, which looks a bit like it was actually a military barrack, so it looks quite imposing. I would go around beforehand into the dining room where people were eating, and I would explain what I was going to do. And people would say, but how will that help me get my papers? And I totally get the question because, people's lives are in turmoil. They're desperately trying to navigate their way through the confusion of red tape and piece together some sort of future for themselves. And how can poetry possibly be relevant? And yet I remember once going to this talk by a woman who'd been taken hostage and imprisoned. And she told us what kept her going was poetry, lines of poetry that she remembered and she would repeat to herself through the endless hours of torture and deprivation. And when everything else had been stripped away, she held on to these poems in her head as kind of pearls of great price that nobody could take from her. And they gave her the comfort and the courage to carry on. So I would say to people when they ask me, well, what's the point of it all? I would say, yeah, it maybe won't help you directly, but it will help in another way, because poetry is a very powerful medium, which is accessible to everyone. It's a kind of form of art that you can have for free. You can carry it around in your head. Nobody can take it away from you. And it's a way of connecting. It can offer comfort, can challenge you. It can accompany you. You can recognize your situation in the words, in the poem. And particularly in Middle Eastern culture, poets are very much a part of life. They really speak for the people. Nearly every Palestinian, when I would mention Mahmoud Darwish, they would smile. It was as if I'd mentioned a friend. And you've got these amazing poets from the Sufi poets like Rumi or Saadi, or poets writing in Arabic like Nizar Kebani, or the Eritrean poet Risa Haley. And all these were poets from these people's countries, and they were very important for them. They knew them very often. And in this way, it was like we were kind of meeting together as guests, together with this poet who they loved or admired, or who understood their situation or their culture or something in their life. And we could kind of just come together around this, and we could learn from each other, because poetry is very subjective. Like, there's no right or wrong interpretation. Does it speak to you? Does it say something to you? What does it say? It's both very personal, but also very, very universal. And we can all have a different take on it and learn from each other. So it kind of offered a chance to meet in this space as equals, as participants, not as social worker and client, or a newcomer and host, but simply as people together, guests in a way of this poet, or companions of this poem. Anyway, so I did that for a while in a classroom setting, and but I felt we should make it more accessible by bringing it to the people, as it were, by doing it outside. So as you see here, we would put up like a big blank piece of paper in the courtyard. This is where people would pass by, people who are just living their ordinary, very stressful lives. And they would then see it. And here you can see it in the corner there. And you saw just now also our poetry wall. We made a poetry wall. But anyway, I did that for a while. But then in 2017, Marika came along with her ukulele. And that brought a whole new element into the equation. It brought the poems to life, really, because music is such a universal language. And we'd always struggled with the limitation of the different languages, resorting to Google Translate, and what did you mean by that? And we were struggling to get it, into something that we could all understand. And now we could add this rhythm and this song and this music, so that our words could speak to people on another level, on a deeper level, beyond words, really.
Should I jump in, maybe, Sarah, and talk about the method now that we've got a ukulele, or do you want to, is that?
No. Sure.
Yeah. I was thinking, so that universal, I think, is really important, and that connection between a person's melodic language, musical language, and their story. As much as possible, I think it's important for, if you've shared something, to sing those words, because there's some kind of, mysterious connection there. But anyway, so I'm going to just step back and talk a little bit about this songwriting method, just in brief, to give you an idea. It's something that I co-created. So here in the co-creating pathways theme, it's very relevant. When I was studying sustainability for my PhD, and I noticed pretty early on. So if you're familiar with sustainability, this idea that a system can continue in perpetuity without inhibiting other systems from also being healthy, and finding ways to kind of bounce back when something happens that's out of our control, maybe a fire in a natural ecosystem, or in a thinking from like an individual perspective, forced displacement. For example, how do you then find ways to kind of recreate equilibrium in a healthy way? And what I noticed was that people that I was studying with were really wanting to help make the world more sustainable in a really large way, but they weren't actually embodying that balance and in their own individual lives. And I certainly wasn't, and hadn't even been aware of that, until I kind of started studying this, and then thinking I should actually really be reflecting on whether or not I am embodying what I'm talking about wanting to represent in the world. So I worked with a member of my cohort, and we looked at this idea of creating individual sustainability by inviting people to share personal stories and moving through the creative process, which can be really transformative, of taking their words and shaping them into lyrics and finding a melody and then having a song to communicate something that they had experienced that maybe was not as accessible to communicate in words alone. And so we start with a story, we start with words, ideas. This can be with an individual person. Sarah and I did this with mostly with groups, but sometimes with individuals. I think it can be really powerful working with a group because it's that connection and really seeing one another and hearing one another and just holding that space to really just kind of be who we are. And like I said at the start, even if you're not sharing or singing, just holding space for that and supporting one another, I think is just it's one of the most powerful things that we can do. What we're going to do today is see how far we can get in writing a song. And songs can come into the world. I think the song itself is kind of its own voice and entity. And so when Sarah and I would work together, we met for 2 hours, each week. And this is actually the little sack of instruments that I brought. I think we have built-in instruments, so even though I can't pass around like egg shakers and things, you can still join in that way. But a song comes in its own way. Sometimes it comes really quickly and it just jumps right out. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. So our goal is to at least have a chorus that we can sing together, so we can lift our voices in song and feel that power of vibration as well. And so what we have here, I'm just showing you a couple of photos, just showing you all the different languages that people share, and how we start with words and phrases, and then we kind of find a way to kind of shape a chorus. The chorus, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but the chorus is really, one participant described it as the soul of the story. So it's this, especially if you're listening to the song at the start that we worked on with Patricia from South Africa, who is here, which is wonderful. It's really that, it could be a call to action. Never give up. Tell your story, share your story, find your voice. It can also be a communication of a kind of universal, something many people experience, so that we can make a connection in hearing that, maybe just one line refrain or a chorus that's repeated. And so regardless of whether or not, and hopefully, you haven't experienced forced displacement, you can still connect to the person sharing that story, because you can feel yourself, you can imagine yourself in the chorus of that song. I want to believe in people. I want a peaceful life. These are, kind of, I think, something that a lot of people, can relate to. Here we are. This is actually just a day that we took a lot of the pages and taped them all together with children who are really excited about taking large swaths of tape. I'm going to go out of here and go into, we've got I just have to get around this Zoom here and find here we go. Okay. Okay. So, and just as so we're going to write as much as we can in the sort of hour and 40 minutes that we have. And also, I just want to, just take a moment to, just to mention that we know, so people are coming from all different places, different backgrounds, different languages, different cultures. And it's important, I think, just to be here and support, and being here, there's a way to be that is especially important, and it's just to be respectful, to just hold space for someone who might be sharing something vulnerable, and and to be kind. There's nothing there, like Sarah said, there's no right or wrong in poetry. And this is a space where all voices are welcome. But in a way that just within that kind of definition of sustainability doesn't inhibit someone else from feeling safe and supported to be here. So I don't know, before we start, are there any questions that anyone has? Are you ready to just kind of dive in? All right, then. Sarah, do you want to kind of start and talk a little bit about these lines we have here, and we'll get
Well, we usually would start with because a blank page or a blank screen is very intimidating to kind of start. And so we would always usually choose some kind of line from a poem to get going. But literally it's just a starting point. That's a starting point, and the poem or the song can go wherever. So here we just chose these, just put them out here just to see if they speak to you or not. That it's really just a starting point. The first quote here is, "How can we live without our lives? How will we know it's us without our past?" And that is a quote from The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And that's a novel written about a family who were forced to migrate from Oklahoma to California, along with 500,000 others. So it's about a forced migration and during the Great Depression. And so I think it's very powerful. How can we live without our lives? Says so much, really. It's like our lives are back there. How do we live now? We're starting again. Yeah, it struck me anyway. I know the people on this path. I know what it is to be in between. This comes from a little poetry book, England Poems from a School. And it's a little school, comprehensive school in the UK, with I think 30 different languages or so from the children. And this one is actually a quote from a 17-year-old girl called Sophie Dunsby. And I kind of liked it also because of this in-between, feeling that I think we can all kind of understand. And here she writes, before that last line, I know what it's like to only half understand the words people say, to half belong in a room. I know what it is to be in between. So yeah, I wanted to add that one just to see if that sparked anything with anybody. And then the last quote is from Mahmoud Darwish, who's this Palestinian poet who a lot of the Palestinians feel very close to him, as if he speaks for them. And he's an amazing poet. And this comes from one of his poems, which is called "We Are Here, Near, There." And it's written in Arabic, so this is a translation of it. So of course, with translation, we always lose things. Or if there's any Arabic speakers, they will probably know it in a different way. But we've got it here as "We are here, a place between the pebbles and the shadows, a place for a voice, a place for freedom." And I kind of like this one because it's sort of, the last two quotes, the struggle of being without your lives, the struggle of being in between. But it's also, in Mahmoud Darwish's case here, a kind of opportunity. It's a place for a voice. It's a place for freedom. It's a unique spot. And maybe with the theme of the Migration Summit, it kind of fits somehow that we're creating new pathways. We're moving forward, and our past is really important, but yeah, we're in a place which we haven't been before, and we can make something totally new, and it's very exciting. So yeah, I just give you these three quotes, and just want you to kind of think for a minute, like just see what comes up in you. What is this? Is there a phrase? Is there a thought? Is there a just word? It just be like a sort of brainstorm. The first few minutes can be just like a brainstorm. Don't think too much. Just maybe you want to write something in the chat, that comes up to you. Like, just something that you may feel like, oh, that's got nothing to do with it. Don't think too much. Just take whatever comes up inside you. Feel free to write it down.
And we'll just be quiet for let's give everyone just a quiet moment. And then Sarah, maybe you can keep an eye on the chat and let's give everyone just like a minute to.
Good idea. Okay. And don't worry if nothing comes up in you either, because sometimes, what is this place? We're here in this place. Maybe there's nothing there, and then maybe something emerges.
So it looks like I can see the chat like going up from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. So do you want to maybe share some of these? And if anyone wants to unmute and share something spoken, I'll type what you're writing. The idea is to capture as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll just read them out. So honoring the stories, honoring the past, it's a part of who we are.
Honoring the past.
Love that image of the new place, finding spaciousness, expansion in the here and now. Honoring the past to inspire the future. Grounding in myself, that I always carry all I need in me. Yes, there is, even in that poem, I'm just thinking, further on in that poem by Mahmoud Darwish, he says, we are here within ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like that connects with that. Beautiful. Living among chaos. Yeah. Okay, and then we have Sunanya. Hello, Sunanya. She was taking care of her baby, so she was in and out, but she might have missed the introduction. But is this right? We are all here to write a song.
Mm-hmm. We're all here just to share and see what musical expression comes from the sharing of our voices and experiences. And if someone wants to share more of a personal experience, that's very welcome, as well.
I will just write to Sanaya.
This is the different ways that we can. Oh, sorry, Camilla, did you want to share something?
Yeah. So, I mean, since the very beginning, since I saw, the blank page with this different quotes, I kind of I love songs as how powerful they are to tell a story. And so I was wondering, how we're talking, in the first one, we're talking about the past. In the last one, we're kind of talking about that moving forward and, related to the summit, on co-creating those pathways. And so I don't know, while I'm thinking, I'm trying, can we write something that kind of narrates past, present, future? I don't know, maybe it's too complex. I'm not doing that.
Say more. So this is this brainstorm it can be different things. So we could already there could be a song just in these phrases that we have here. We could write a song, but we can also build off of this idea, narrating past, present, and future. And what does that bring up for people? Share. Do you want to share more kind of about that and what that might mean for you?
Yeah, and so I don't know if personally from myself, but I'm trying to kind of think about the experience I'm having with the summit and how sometimes it's very hard to listen to those stories, but at the same time, we don't have to leave those behind. It's part of who we are, what we do, and so sometimes, I was thinking about the storytelling session and the keynote and the roller coaster of emotions that kind of made me feel. And so I think it's really important to kind of not leave that past behind. But I don't really have a personal experience to share.
That's okay.
It was mostly a reflection. Yeah.
So we have sound in the chat, which carries on a little bit from Camilla, learning from Stanina, learning from the past to not make the same mistakes again, to know that humanity is stronger Blood is stronger than some words written in ink.
Wow. That gave me goosebumps. I just want to make sure, Camilla, thank you for sharing that. I know it's like, it can be a really vulnerable thing to just start sharing, and we don't always realize it. So it takes a lot of courage, just to share these words. So, and if anyone wants to kind of build off of this, what I do is, this is a starting point, right? So I'm just typing what people are saying, and then we can begin shaping from there, because if you're taking a longer story that someone's sharing and you're writing a 3 to 5 minute song, sometimes you have to cut things out and really get to sort of that concentrated, what is this like? There can be so many messages from a story, but what's the one that we really want to share? And maybe it's this idea of not leaving that past behind as we bring it into the present and future. But what does that mean? How do we do that? How do we do that in a way that is loving and supportive of our humanity? Maybe, I don't know if there's anything else that people want to kind of share about that.
I sometimes have this image of, and I'm sure it's an image from a film or from a poster or from, I'm not sure, a painting of, of sort of chaos. I sort of feel that the world is in chaos. Sudan, everything now is chaotic. But then this sort of incredible beauty of people's strength and power emerging from that chaos, and a lot of the storytelling sessions that we heard, the keynote and a lot of the stories, it was really hard and hard and difficult, and nothing that we don't wish anyone to experience. But from amongst that hardship and and turmoil and chaos comes strength and resilience and beauty, and and the way that everyone has emerged from what they've experienced. It gives us hope, and it makes us really believe in that a positive and bright, hopeful future is possible.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think of a butterfly.
You have to go through that
for that transformation. I mean, maybe it's a bit cliche, but it is. I mean, so much of who we are is reflected, in nature and reflected back to us. So should we look at what we have and kind of?
We have
more. Do we have
more things? We have some more things in the chat too. We have in the start, we were all one, and in the end, we will all be one. So in the start, we were all one, in the beginning, and in the end, we will all be one. So that's kind of quite a nice, start and end.
Yeah. That could almost be a line in a chorus that we could sing together.
Yeah.
So this is
and then we have someone else. Sorry, we have Patricia, living in hope for the better future.
Nice, beautiful. Everything is just. I think there's something just really powerful in just the spoken, kind of unfiltered word, and that's something that I think can be really powerful about this songwriting method. There isn't time for us to like make it perfect and rhyming necessarily, but it's really authentic and raw, and I think that's something that's really beautiful just about being human. So maybe I'm going to scroll back and just sort of read what we have. Do you want to read, Sarah, a little bit of what we have?
Sure. So we'll just read it out as it is, and then maybe while I read it, if people can kind of sort of in a way, if there a word or a phrase that they want to have in the song, or that they think that's important, or it might even be that this as I read it, that they think of new things, So I'm just going to read it slowly, and then if you want in the chat, just to say that, just what, because we're kind of looking now for a thread that goes through it all, so that we can there's obviously so much unsaid in a song. Right? We have to say something which kind of implies a lot of other things. So that's sometimes hard to get that quite to find the thread, or to find that, you know. But I think we've got so much here already that we're going to find it. But anyway, I'm going to read it out, and if you something strikes you, just note it in the chat. Honoring the stories, honoring the past is a part of who we are. Love that image of the new place, finding spaciousness, expansion in the here and now. Honoring the past to inspire the future. Grounding in myself, that I always carry all I need in me. We are here within ourselves, living among chaos. Since I saw the blank page with these quotes, I love songs with how powerful they are to tell a story. We are talking about the past, talking about moving forward, co-creating pathways. Can we write something that narrates past, present, future? I don't know it personally from myself, but I'm trying to think about the experience I'm having with the summit. Sometimes it's hard to listen to these stories, but at the same time, we don't have to leave those behind. It's part of who we are and what we do. And so sometimes I think about the storytelling session and the keynote and the roller coaster of emotions that made me feel. I think it's important to not leave that past behind. Learning from the past to not make the same mistakes again. To know that humanity is stronger. Blood is stronger than some words written in ink. I sometimes have this image of chaos. I feel that the world is in chaos. Sudan, everything now is chaotic. But then there is this incredible beauty of people's strength and power emerging from that chaos. And a lot of the storytelling sessions that we heard, the keynote and a lot of the stories, it was hard and difficult and nothing we wish for anyone to experience. But from that hardship, turmoil and chaos comes strength and resilience and beauty. And the way that everyone has emerged from what they have experienced, it gives us hope. And it makes us really believe that a positive and bright, hopeful future is possible. In the start, we were all one. And in the end, we will all be one. Living in hope for the better future.
Right.
Wow, there's a lot there already. Of course, way too much for a song. But there are quite a lot of themes, I think, that run through it that we can, what do you all think is a kind of
And I
thread?
can do and just say, so you could like see that I was kind of hitting enter and enter and enter. So this is kind of songwriting in a virtual way. And so when I've worked with a person one-on-one, like working with, Patricia, for example, she shared a whole story and I typed it all. And so you can get quite a lot of text. And then so the next step is to then turn it into this kind of poetry that, the human voice, it can only sing so many words in one line or even speaking a poem. So you want kind of a shorter line or phrase. And so that's kind of this second step that we've taken here. So we have more of what looks like a poem, but then still, the next step would be to kind of start looking and seeing what is something that we're communicating here, and we can highlight these phrases, and start looking for a possible chorus that we can then create a melody that we can sing. And any time that more ideas come up, like Sarah just said, we can add to it.
And so we should we kind of tell you out loud or even here on the chat, like maybe we start highlighting some?
Yeah. Are there particular lines that you think like this I just want to hear this being sung, or this is like kind of the soul of what's being communicated, that really deep message? And any story, I mean, so from each of these lines, we can get so many different, ideas being communicated. But in this, in this kind of shorter time that we have together, and I mean, I have ideas, but I don't want. We think of this as like a guiding song, so I want to hear from kind of what everybody thinks. And so here's part of it.
Yeah, I like kind of one of the last things that was mentioned about, like, in the start we were all one, and in the end we will all be one. I think that's like really powerful and kind of like already tells a lot about what we were talking about, like the narration of it. So I like that.
Yeah, in the start we're all one, and in the end we will all be one.
Yeah.
I'm living in hope for the better future, and I can see those lines together. And again, so something that was really important is to make sure that we want to share at least one word that everybody has shared, because it's important to kind of honor every voice, and we do our best to kind of it can be more challenging when you have a lot of different people sharing different ideas to kind of weave them together. But I think that's kind of a metaphor for kind of co-creating this better future together from all of our different experiences. There was something like Lorraine, I think, said about sort of this chaos.
Yes, I think chaos must be there.
I had this image of chaos.
It's because
when it says from chaos and hardship comes strength, and I think it's below.
Yes.
Comes strength and resilience and beauty.
Yeah. Because I think what a lot of it is being said is that, the past is hard. It's this idea of, we kind of want to create something new, but, we cannot do it without our past. Actually, what in a way with the quote as well, how can we live without we need to have our past, but we don't need to be totally defined by it, so we have to kind of carry that with us. There was a line that someone said about everything is in us. We carry everything within us. So I don't know. That was also, I think, a line that was already been said, something similar to that, which I think, in a way is so true. You cannot escape the past, but it's how you live with it, how you live with the chaos, how you live with, how do you go through it, emerge into something else.
An interesting thought I had is the stories that we find most captivating are the stories where there's been change or where something has happened out of nothing, stories where everything is just, we go along life and everything is perfect and wonderful. Then there is nothing captivating or interesting about that. So in a way, this sort of transformation, as you say, Marika, this sort of metamorphosis from hardship and chaos. It's like being an entrepreneur. You go through this sort of hell of like building your startup and doing things and pulling your hair out and not sleeping, and then suddenly it's like, wow, there's success. So I think, the journey is perhaps more important than the outcome. And the journey is what we really want to capture, as opposed to, oh, look, we're amazing. Look, we have an easy, happy life. There's nothing interesting there. But what we want is the struggle and the turmoil to get there. Maybe that's human nature for being captivated by that.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. I think that's a very good image as well. And it's like a bit of the theme, creating these pathways. It's the pathway. Creating this is not the end result. It's what you're doing on the way, towards something. I think that's really a really good image.
And yeah, maybe I can jump in also just to, I gave a little introduction to sort of the beginning part of the method, and then now you're kind of seeing kind of how it can unfold. I was saying to Sarah, I was laughing because whenever I talk about this method, I say, well, usually this is how we do it. But then I think, there's no usual, because each song's unique, each of us is unique. And so the way each song comes into the world is just, it's this sort of, organic process, one of those like ineffable, unknowable things, and which is to me so magical that we can spend this time together, and from all these separate lives in a short period of time have something that we can sing together. That to me is just like that hope for the better future. But so I often just start with the chorus because I think that's and in my research, working on my, PhD, and then what Sarah and I have seen, I think there's a lot of emotion just in that communication of that deeper theme, call to action, kind of hope communication. But then the verses tend to be some of the things that people have been sharing, this kind of unfolding of stories, sort of action oriented. Like if you're thinking about sort of language, the kind of verbs, like this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. And that's why, from turmoil and chaos comes strength and resilience. We carry everything within us. Like I had this hard experience, but it's important to remember we carry strength within us, and that's where so someone then, I think it's important that we all do this together in this space, but then when we share the song, like sharing Patricia's song, it speaks to people in this powerful way and for different reasons, because, maybe you can imagine, being in a hard, difficult experience, but then, it's the chorus that kind of, I think, can, communicate something for all of us. And then we hear these verses and we step into the experience of another person. So this is, so we've got like here, we have so many different possible chorus. We have like, in the start, we were all one, in the end, we'll all be one. It could be, we could do something like, I think some like simple, is nice, just like fewer words. So part of what we do is try to take this, like, obviously I have a tendency to, but it's shortening that so that it's something that is like, simple and enjoyable to say. Never give up. Life gives second chances. Or like from the song we were listening to, share your story far and wide. It's like, it's something we can easily remember and sing along with. So I think, if we can kind of look at these different words that we have, and maybe even in, and you can tell me, like, do you want to hear something different in the chorus than kind of like this, what we were kind of looking at here, possible chorus. I can spell, I'll just put possible chorus. Because we're just a starting point. Then when we sing, the words will probably change, because the way that we speak and the way that our bodies speak in song and in sound is often different. A word like sustainable is not always fun to sing. So we might, say something different. Like, live in hope. Or we carry everything within us. I could hear a chorus starting with that. We carry everything within us.
Yeah, and the past, we carry the past within us, with us. I mean, we take the past.
Or it could be we carry the past within us. I mean, that could be. Does that seem okay? The past within us. Hardship,
yeah, I like that.
Turmoil, hardship, turmoil, chaos.
Yeah.
Or it could be something, so we carry the past within us. We want to create something new. I mean, so, and this is just kind of, we can look at some of those different lines. So we carry the past within us. What is a line that we might want to, from what we have here or another idea, we can kind of look at this. We carry the past within us. It's part of who we are. Oh, go ahead.
I actually sometimes reflect, like, of course, we carry the past with us, and it's part of who we are. But
Yeah.
sometimes we not only want to be defined by our past, and so, and I hear this a lot. Sometimes it's like, someone is a refugee who is now doing but the first thing that's mentioned is the label refugee, this kind of relates with Patricia's song, don't label me a refugee, just sing with me. And so, I mean, I think it's good that we're kind of honoring the past, but I'm trying to think, like, do we always want that to be, what defines us? I don't want to make this too complex,
Right.
but
No, I think that's a really important message.
I think we can reflect that in the song. Maybe we can reflect the kind of tension between, this idea of, we do, we're stuck with our past in a way. We do have to have it, but we don't want it to be the last word. We don't want it to define us. We don't want, we want to move. So there's always this kind of tension between that. You can't escape it in a way, because that is part of you, but it's not everything of you, it's not, so we could maybe have that in the verses a little bit, that sort of struggle,
Yeah. And that can also be, so this is, my background is in classical music, and I grew up in a Western culture folk music tradition. So that's a very specific lens, and so people coming from different cultures, different musical backgrounds, this song could be written in many different ways, which I think I'd like to learn about more, different kind of just musical, kind of templates for songwriting. But this is just one, the verses and chorus, and then you can bring in a bridge that kind of introduces sort of like a new idea. So we might talk about wanting to honor the past, and these different experiences and verses, and then the chorus, and then bring in the bridge, the past is important, but it doesn't have to define you. And again, this is just one way of writing music, just to kind of give you idea. So
it is an interesting idea come up in the chat.
Oh, good.
And Cole, attributes versus identity, ? Maybe Ivan, you want to tell us a little bit more, or write it in the chat what you mean by that exactly?
Yeah, I can say more. You're talking about refugee as a label, and a label is something that you can or cannot have. Someone might place it on you. But then I was also thinking of attributes, like just the hair that you have or don't have, or your height. Things that are not, they're from your past, but they're also your present, and you can't do anything about them. But that doesn't need to be your identity. You don't walk around and say, first and foremost, hi, I'm this tall, this is my hair. So I was just thinking about then, what is a label versus an attribute of someone? And how does something get chosen or not chosen as an identity? But then also, the identity that you choose for yourself isn't the one someone else will see. And attributes are what you see. So someone can, in a sense, choose your identity for you in their head based on attributes.
Evan, can you say that again? I'm not sure I completely, the identity you choose for yourself, did I get that right? It's not
necessarily the one that someone else forms in their head of you. So you can think of yourself as someone different. And someone doesn't necessarily see your whole past and what it meant and how it happened, but they'll see these attributes. If you have a scar, someone will see that you have a scar. They won't know it's from a bike accident or what it is from. So refugee, in a sense, to me, it kind of feels like an attribute, where it's something that maybe someone can see, maybe someone can't, but it is a part of your past and your present, and it's just kind of an ending, rambling, open-ended thought of mine.
Good. It's
but
all
where
good.
is it? And how does it tie in with identity that you choose or someone else chooses for you?
So maybe this is also a message then. So we've got, I mean, we have these messages, you know, we were all one, we'll all be one. There's turmoil and chaos, but then there's beauty. We carry everything. We carry the past within us. We want to live in hope for the future so that we're not stuck with our past. And the identity you choose for yourself is not necessarily, you know, doesn't have to define you. So, so maybe we want to add something about, you know, identity into this.
I finished the thought. I was remembering
Yeah.
what I was also thinking with the word attribute. And it's something I think of a lot when it comes to like equity of opportunity or hiring or anything like that. And it's like the attributes that are relevant to the moment or to the relationship. So like if I were to meet a new person that I simply need to maybe go on a small travel with, there's many things about them. There are many attributes about them as a person that simply aren't relevant. So it isn't to say I don't care about them or who they are, but those aspects aren't relevant to our relationship at the time and what we're trying to achieve. And so that's where refugee to me is an attribute that is sometimes relevant and sometimes not.
Yeah.
And then I don't know exactly how that intersects with identity, because identity is supposedly something more integral to you, but at the same time, your identity is largely not relevant in certain moments when you just need to get by on certain attributes.
Yeah. Yeah. Does this like inspire, thank you so much for sharing that, Evan. That's like, I think that's, I mean, that also just builds on this idea of like, don't label me. And, you know, can we create an identity that feels authentic? You know, that doesn't, I mean, it's be built on our past, but doesn't have to define us. Yeah, Lorraine.
I don't know if Cami, you want to go first? You had your hand up earlier.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you, Camilla.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess what I was thinking is I really like what Evan says about identity versus attributes, but sometimes we wear our identity as who we are. So I think I think the tricky part is the perception of the outside world. How do you make sure that what they perceive as your identity isn't how you are judged? So I maybe what Evan is getting to is a sort of judgment and and relevance of identity, this attribute. Perhaps it's perception and judgment of the other. I'm not sure if that's what you mean, Evan, because sometimes we can't disguise what we are, what we look like, being female, being of color, being long hair, short hair, but it's just the perception of others and how they and what they use to judge us.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true, and brings to mind another clarification of what I was thinking, which is actually the contextuality of identity. Where if we were to just do a phone call, I don't need to know the color of your skin. I can't know the color of skin if you don't tell me. Or if you and I were just going to go on a run together and we're never going to talk, the attributes that matter are how fast we run, can we keep up together? And so your identity is very contextual to how you're engaging with someone, what your objectives are, and then in a sense, what you choose to share in that time. Some things you have control over sharing and some things you don't. So in a phone call, you could choose not to share your skin color, but if we meet in person, you can't. So back to this idea of like the label of refugee. There are many times when you can choose or not choose to share that. Many times when it may or may not be helpful. Many times when it's relevant or irrelevant. And if you bring it up when it's not relevant, it can even seem weird and irrelevant, I guess. So also the contextual nature of identity, and when you can and can't control how someone else sees you, and when you can or cannot control even how you want to see yourself.
Yes, I like that.
This is so rich, and you can see how so I think we may not get this whole song written today, but you can see just how it's unfolding, and that there can be so many messages that we can shape into one chorus. And so just from one story that we all share, we could have like 10 different songs, right? So guiding this process. Microsoft doesn't recognize my. So I get thinking about AI and these keeping this authentic. and real and human, I think is also important, but that's something for another time. So, okay, so now we have so much text, and something actually that I can do is, what I'm going to do is copy and paste this and actually create a Word document. Sometimes what I do, just because it's nice to be able to see more of the text together, and it can be hard to see it all. So if you put it in multiple columns, like we could even do like 3 columns. And so, okay, here's like all of our text. It's still a lot. This is so much to look at and try to figure out how are we going to get like a short 4 to 5 line chorus from this. And maybe we don't start with the chorus. Maybe we just are going to start with verses because there's so much here. So let's see.
Yeah, we've got here, it's part of you, but not everything of you.
It's part of you, but everything of you. So,
but I think that fits in with a little bit what we've been talking about.
So going back here, it's
about the identity, you know, it's a sort of, it's the idea of, you know, when you look at me, you know, what do you see? Or who is it you want to be? You know, like who do you want to, you know, there's so much there that we're going to have to leave as unspoken, because you can't say all that in a song, but you need to be able to even maybe voice a question or something that will bring that to mind, you know, all these ideas which are very relevant.
It reminds me of something that I think Camilla said, something about how can we write something that narrates past, present, and future. So let's see. And we can, you know, say this in a different kind, you know, a simpler, not simpler, but just a way that might be a little bit shorter. Like thinking about, so is this, you know, this could be a verse that starts the song. It's important not to leave the past behind. Or this could be the lead in to a chorus, you know, so we share kind of a little bit of a story. And then we have this sort of, so, you know, I let's like see, so we could have,
so Lorraine has put in the chat.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when Sarah said those words, when you look at me, what do you see? What do you want me to be? I mean, that's just like says everything in context. Well, we're talking about identity. Like when you look at me, what do you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is really cool. Yeah. So like, okay. So think
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah. I think we have to kind of try and condense into things that will bring that up in our minds, because we cannot explain everything, but I think something that will trigger that in our minds. Yeah.
And then Evan, do you want to jump in and say something?
I see that. What do you want me to be? And maybe a line after could be something about why do you want me to be that? Because every interaction in person has motives. It's never just as simple as hello.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can we say, so when you look at me, what do you see? What
and
do
maybe
you
who do you, that's good, Lorraine. Who do you want me to be?
Who?
What do you want me to be?
Who do you want me to be? And then that, you know, why? Maybe can we build off of the why? Or maybe it's, you know, why can be that leading into the chorus, like, you know, so we might have a bit of I'm hearing kind of just from our stories, kind of this verse that talks a little bit about, you know, I had this experience, and, you know, but like, I felt like this was, you know, someone was labeling me or judging me based on my height, my hair, you know, the sound of my voice. And then, so we're singing that, then we shift into this, like, when you look at me, what do you see? Who do you want me to be? And then we could have this, why are we defined by, and this could be the chorus, right? Like, why can't we just can't we just be, who we are? And we would take it from, from as much as possible, these words that we have, or something new that someone's thinking of, right now.
When you're saying that, I was thinking actually the inverse, that
Okay.
when you look at me, what you see could be the chorus, and then the why can set up different verses. And each why is a different interaction when someone had a different motive to see me a certain way.
We can totally try that. And I want to just check in and make sure that kind of people who are listening and sharing are feeling like, this is okay. Because again, this is a bit of a kind of, I wouldn't say rushed, but just a sort of fast motion writing of a song. So, I want to share and make sure that people are comfortable and feel like, okay, yes, this is what I want to say. So one possible thing, you want to say that again, Evan? So we can kind of think about structure. So chorus, when you look at
chorus is that when you look at me, what do you see? Who do you want me to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then though every stanza can start with why, and it's like, why did this? I don't know exactly how it would work, but the setup is that every verse is a different interaction, a different time that you were labeled a certain way or identified a certain way, and it starts with that motivation of why. So what was the other person's motivation to see me that way, or what were they trying to get out of me or with me? I don't know. That's why each one would be different, but that seems like an interesting structure for me.
Yeah, I like that. And then so jumping in just with the sort of musical so when we have a melody, I find out, like, someone sings and I figure out what key they're singing in, and then musically, often the chorus doesn't necessarily have to, and we could just try something different, but often the chorus will end with a kind of a note that is the first note of the scale. So if it's in a C, it's going to be a C chord. And that kind of creates a feeling of resolution. And this sort of, that's why, this is important, or, this is what I want to feel or communicate. And the words can also, can fit with that feeling of resolution. I mean, it doesn't have to, so we can have a chorus that has a bit more of a kind of question mark and maybe doesn't have an answer, or we could kind of create an answer at the end, like the very last line, when you look at me, what do you see, and then we have a line that says like, something like, maybe it doesn't matter because, this is how I see me, or something, something like that. I mean, if that makes sense. But we have about 50 minutes and we have a whole lot. So I just want to, keep on with our timing. So should we look at this text and see if there's a kind of a why verse that we want to bring into this?
The idea, like a very simple example is sometimes good. Because we can be a bit vague. And so, like, it's good then if we're vague, then we can kind of include a lot of things, but sometimes it's good to be specific. So for example, with the why, it could be something you said about going for a run, or why did you ask where I'm from? I'm just going to go for a run. I mean, not that, but a very specific example, or the one about the phone call, just something that really pinpoints it. It's a very, very specific example. And then we have the kind of the chorus, So I don't know if we could do that.
Yeah.
Go on a run and never talk. We just need to keep up. You just need to be able to run, something like that. But I don't know. A phone call. I don't need to know the color of your skin. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We want it short and snappy, of course, but something in that line. I don't know what you think.
Check the chat. There is a good idea.
Let me see. What do I see when I look at me? Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Helen. What do I see when I look at me? That's good also. And that's also the coming to, it's not just what you see, but what do I see, So we've got a whole other.
And that could be part of the course too. What do you see? When you look at me, what do you see? Who do you want me to be? And then it could be like, what do I see? What do I want to be? I mean, right? We can have these.
Yeah. What do I want to be? Yeah. You know,
Like,
why
who
do
do
you have to
who
ask?
I
Why did you
wanna-
have to ask that? You know, it's not what I want to emphasize, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Evan.
I was just thinking too while we're saying, what do I want me to be? What do other people want me to be? Sometimes you want to be what someone else wants you to be. If they really want your best interests, or if they do know you better than you. So I feel like maybe it's just in my head, but this what other people wanted me to be up till this moment had been a negative thing. But sometimes you would rather be what someone wants you to be. They can make you a better person.
Yeah, so people can shape who we are, like that kind of idea. I
Yeah,
mean,
and you can want that, and you can let them do it. It doesn't need
yeah,
to be a negative or an opposed thing.
right. I mean, this can be, like a positive thing.
What about I want you to be what you want me to be?
Right, it can get confusing to sing. Okay, so let's see. I'm just,
Oh, wait, we have now something on the chat here from Patricia. She says, I'm not sure about this, but I was thinking that one can also ask what I see when I look at you. Then the song can flow into a positive direction. One can also ask, what do I see when I look at you, and and go in a positive way.
so what if that was like a first line of the song? What do I see when I look at you? And then we've got, these ideas about like, is it your hair, your height, the color of your skin? I'm just, I want to try to make sure, like, is it your hair?
And then you could follow up with the things that can't be seen.
Yeah. What about the things that can't be seen?
Like, what about your heart? What about your what about your past?
What about
Exactly. I was thinking about that, about the past, and kind of going back to the first idea that we had, because like we had a strong also like thoughts around that.
Yeah, we want to get the past. We want to, like the past. You don't see it on someone, do you? You know, I mean,
Exactly.
Past. The past is maybe is there, but it's not all of me. Or I don't know. I mean, so we can make things learn. We don't have to, like, but it's not all you see. So I just realized too, so something we want to think about too is like, do we want to sing in, is it, what do I see when I look at you? Is it, what do you see when you look at me? How, who are we, singing, are we singing kind of from the first person to the audience, or are we inviting the audience, like the listener? What do you see when you look at me?
and Sunayana says here, what do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me by what you see? The past is over, but the memories live with me.
I love that, Sarah. Oh my God. You're so good at this, Sarah. Wow.
No, it's not me. This is I'm reading from this is Sunanya. Well done, Sunanya. Do you want to come in? Do you want to say something? Because that's not me. That's I'm reading from the chat. So
I love to see how like this is so cool how this unfolds and we build and we like shape that.
Related to your question, Marika.
My video off, but I'm feeling so inspired just listening to you all, and it's really nice. It's getting me to places where I haven't been in the last 2 years. This is really good. So I'm just keeping my video off, but I'm here and I'm listening.
And did we say your name right? How do you pronounce your name?
It's Sunayana is right.
Sunayana.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, because you've shared some lovely thoughts here.
Yes, and I know that it's just sometimes when you open that door and you start sharing these things, a lot can come up. So, okay, so what do you, let's see. I really like this line too. Sometimes we wear our identity as who we are. And there's so much richness in everything that everyone's shared. But maybe we want to create something new.
Do you think we can do a chorus maybe with the, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking we have like really like a verse and then a chorus. And I think that would be a really neat thing to be able to create, you know, in this time that we have. I'm just trying to think of like what's this first line that we're gonna kind of like that we want to say in this song. And maybe it is, what do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me by what you see? The past is over, but you know, and I really like this bit about, you know, just those kind of like, I like it all. So I'm gonna be careful about like, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah,
with
and responding, Marika, to your question about like the tone, like if it's like more personal, like I like, you know, what do you, because I don't know, like I like when I listen to songs and it's like, oh my God, like that, and I kind of feel that they are like talking to me and maybe like making me be accountable in a way. I don't know.
So maybe that could be actually like a part of it, right? That accountability. I mean, that could be a fun word to sing too. Sorry, go ahead, Lorraine.
I was going to say that's what we want, and as you say, it's fun, but that's what we want. We want the accountability. We want people to sort of stop and listen and like, listen to me. Stop, you know, listen to me.
Like, can there be like accountability? And then, so what do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin, the past.
Or do you look within, or do you something within? Skin within.
I mean, definitely put the past, you know, put the past somewhere.
Yeah. What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin. There are memories there that live within. Trying to get this like kind of the past. You know, but like, you know, and then maybe it's an invitation for the we, right? So it's part of this talking to the you, but then bringing it into like, can we be accountable? So, and then we come into the chorus, the past isn't defined, you know, my identity, about like identity and, you know, how we see each other. And this is just one possible avenue, but maybe we can, I love this word accountable, because I think this is so much about co-creating, right? It's like, it's not just one of us, it's that diversity. So let's see. So if we start here, what do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me? What is then? And then we have a kind of, so we have a first half of the verse, then we're gonna have we could have a second half about kind of accountability that can lead us into this kind of chorus. And do we want to talk about kind of the label and then, you know, refugee and accountability, or do we want to just, you know, how do we want to kind of bring that in? You know, kind of what defines us? Can we be accountable in how we see one another? I like this line, like, it doesn't have to be the last word. I'm also just thinking of words that like feel good to say. Like word is, it's a fun word to say.
Accountable to who?
Do you want to say, was it Camilla, were you talking about accountability? Yeah, and maybe that's a question we could ask. I mean, so I think we were talking about like just how
it came up like from Marika asked, like, should we talk from the I or should we talk like you? And I said that I personally like sometimes listen to songs that are like talking directly to the listener and kind of, you know, change the way that I'm thinking some things, because, and I don't know, and so I feel that if we go for the you, it kind of makes you feel accountable in a way. Like maybe it does not have to be like that. I personally experienced that. But yeah, it was more like a concept. But yeah, happy to hear your thoughts, Evan.
You can say something about like this idea that like, you know, a story, a person, a label can talk to you, can talk to me, but like there's also a we. Do you want to say more about that, Evan? And if other
I was gonna actually say the same thing. Is the identity is a group thing, And what if we even had one verse for each? You had a verse for you, a verse for me, and a verse for us.
Yeah, I love that. That's like totally a possible way that this song could unfold. And so there could be, so structure, one possible structure is like there's a verse for you, for me, and for us.
And then we have also in the chat, Helene says, when you think of memories, there's a Yiddish phrase about living in the hearts of those we leave behind. So I think you can have also, we do want to mention the past, you know, like you have my hair, my height, and then
Yeah.
my past, my heart, and and all the people in my, you know, all the people you carry in your heart. Also, you don't see that when you look at someone. You don't know who their loved ones are or who they're, you know, what they're carrying with them.
And that's that we, that group identity of all the people you carry with you.
Yeah, I carry with me.
Yeah, which is a nice sort of, you know, like there's so much to a person, you know, when you just see that you don't know so little about them, you know.
So we could say something about like, so we've got, what do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin, all the people
I carry within.
Yeah, I carry within.
But the past also, we need to say maybe my height, the color of my skin.
Past, the people I carry within.
People I carry within.
And then we could say, I'm just going to move this. A story can talk to you. It can talk to me. There's a we in identity, you know. Can we sing about accountability or something like that, right? And then we go into the chorus. And so then we can go back and say like, and when we have the line, don't label.
Is that when you look at me, what do you see?
Yeah, and so, but right now we have that as kind of like the first line of the song.
What do you see?
Getting lost. When you look at me, what do you see?
And what about, can you show like the first chorus we thought about? Like, I don't remember about it. Like, maybe it has nothing to do, but I want to see like if we can bring that.
Yeah, good point.
You can see it can get a little bit like chaotic. And so, I mean, even at the Fed Asiel Center in Brussels, we'd have this page literally with like arrows and circles, and then we'd take a new page. And those are this is longer. I mean, so this is a much longer kind of story. So we have this like,
that we were all one.
The things that we talked about, we carry the past within us. It doesn't have to define us. From hardship, turmoil, and chaos, you know, come resilience. We're all one, and we're all one. In a way, you know, we're stuck in our past, but it doesn't have to be the last word. And there's just still that line again. I just keep coming back to that, Camilla, about like, you know, how can we be past, present, and future? Can we be past, present, and future? So that's, you know, kind of. If I just, hopefully I'm not making you like motion sick, but I can. Like we are past, present, and future. Like, there's a main identity, like maybe something. Future. We're not one thing. I mean, so, you know, we can kind of, maybe that is kind of, that seems to be a message that's coming out, like, you know, we're not just kind of one attribute. We can try singing attribute. What do you think? Do you want to look at some more of the words that we kind of came up with at the start and see if any kind of jump out, like, you know, we're past, present, and future. The past is a part of who we are.
And then there's the contradiction in the one, we are all one and we will all be one. And then, you know, like we're all so different, you know, we're all one, but yet we're also different. So you've got this other kind of, you know, maybe something like that, you know, that you.
All different. Mm-hmm.
But yet, you know, we are kind of all part of the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
That. that sense of separation and that sense of togetherness is another sort of, contradiction that you want to bring together.
Maybe like, I mean, we could even say like there's like a contradiction in an identity, how I see you and you see me. That line keeps coming up. We're past.
We can maybe just say we are many, but we are all one.
Yeah.
Just because it gets so complicated, so many words get so complicated.
Yes, it's like this is like a kind of, I mean, this is in real time, right? So it's, and then we sing and it all changes because, our bodies, we might see the word attribute and then just sing something different. So it's kind of, it's very experiential. What if so I think something we could do, well, how do people feel about just these possible lines in the chorus? Does anyone want to kind of jump in and change anything? Or do we want to try just maybe singing through some of these words and see what kind of melody and changes happen? This is like the scariest part. And when I first did this, with my research partner, where we were kind of he had shared this idea of maybe we could share a story to overcome a creative block in musical composition, because he's a composer and taught songwriting. And so he invited me to share a story just as we are, but like in person, in front of people. And I was like so afraid to sing that I hid behind a pillow. So I recognize that this can be really vulnerable, but does anybody want to just kind of try singing some or like some of these words or just a little bit, and just to see, what kind of melody might come out? Is anybody feeling brave? Sarah, do you want to sing?
I got my shakers. No.
I mean, I have no problem like singing, but I have a lot of trouble with sorting out a melody. And I think like I've been listening to Patricia's song so much that I'm like going to bring things from that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So as I'm like, Sarah and I are in this role of guiding, and I can share a little bit more information about like kind of the why that I like to invite someone else to sing. And because any choice that I make changes the direction of the language that we're using, the melody. And so I can play a chord, which I'm totally happy to do, but that will already kind of influence the notes that Camilla sings, which is also fine. And so I can intentionally play in a different key than Patricia's song so that we can get away. And I can play a chord and you can say, no, I don't like that, right? Or, we could just we can have a major chord, which is going to feel happier versus like a minor, chord, which in some cultures actually can be happy. For me, it evokes kind of a sort of like wistful, sad. And this is just a starting point too. This is really like the roughest of rough drafts. We can have a bluesy song. There's lots of different ways we can do this. Do you want to try singing a bit of it, Camilla, and see?
Yeah, no, sorry. I had to open the door of my
I thought it was like you're hiding behind a pillow, like turning off video. Which I totally relate.
I mean, I don't sing. I'm a bit, but...
Could we start with a rhythm maybe, and then I'll just speak it and find a rhythm, then a melody afterwards?
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to try just sort of like speaking and see? I mean, there's music and rhythm in the spoken voice for sure.
I'm full of ideas for other people. But does someone else want to try first? Or all together and we just see what comes?
Yeah, we could just unmute and just like say the words. Like, what do you see when you look at me? Chanting kind of.
Yeah. We just start and see what happens.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
What do you see
when you look at me?
Do you judge me? by what you see. I'm just waiting for someone to like break out in song.
My hair, my height, the color of my skin, the past, the people I carry within. I can't sing very well.
I hear it. What do you see when you look at me?
That's it.
When you look at me, do you just judge me by what you see? Okay, now I'm like, what did you say, Sarah? It was so pretty. I'm like, now I'm already changing it. Let's see, we'll go back. I'm just gonna listen. I'm just waiting for someone to like. I was recording that because otherwise I'll forget. I should have mentioned that first. So let's see. The people I carry within. What? Yes. Let's see. Okay, bear with me a moment. The past, the people I carry within. What do you see when you look at me? You can stay muted. Do you want to try just singing that? You can unmute and or mute and just. What do you see when you look at me?
Yeah, that should be quite strong, shouldn't it? You know, it's the first kind of.
What do you see when you look at me? Do you just judge me by what you see?
That line works a little better in that melody without just, I think.
Yeah, good. So this is just right. Like, and I was thinking that, but I think that's a perfect, like when you sing, it just comes out differently, right? So
Yeah, it's got more emphasis on the judge. It's good.
Do you judge me by what you see?
Can you go up? My hair, my height.
Yeah. The color of my, I love going at the color of my skin, like that.
And then drop back down at the end of the line, maybe.
Yeah. The past, the people I carry within, like lower, like, or even more lower.
I don't know. I just had the
I
idea
like
that it was up
like
and
that.
down back down.
I like the up and down.
What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin, the past, the people I carry within. Kind of like that.
What if the third line started high?
Okay. What do you see? Look at me. Do you judge me what you see? My hair, like that, or like even higher.
Like
My
really
hair.
just start up there.
My hair, my height, the color of my skin, the past,
the people I carry within.
I carry within. Kind of like that. I carry within. Okay. What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin, the past, the people I carry within. Kind of low like that, Evan, you thinking?
It could find its way down. It doesn't need to go down so fast. The past, the people I carry within.
Past the people I carry within.
But in octaves of our voice.
The past, the people I carry within. Not like that?
Sure.
Again, this
Also
is
just
like,
making this up.
yeah.
Patricia wants to say something.
Patricia, you want to unmute? Can you unmute? So you can...
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry. No, I was thinking about it in a different way. So just want to try, but it's fairly different. Everything is different. The rhythm is different. So I just don't want to forget it, right? So that's why I just want to try. So, what do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? my hair, my heart, the color of my skin. Sorry, that's the rhythm that I was thinking on my head while she was
It's kind of slow and bluesy. Yeah.
Sorry.
See when you look at me. Do you? Yeah. You want to sing that again?
Beautiful
Okay,
voice.
I can try.
For the chat.
I can try. I just didn't want to forget that rhythm. Okay. What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair,
The color of my skin.
my eyes, the color of my skin.
That actually could be the whole thing. I mean, what do you see when you look at me? Kind of like that. Do you judge me by what you see? And then there was kind of like a slower, my hair, my height, the color of my skin. That could be. And then the second line could be like, I have a past and people I carry with me. You know, a story can talk to you, or like something about our identity. I mean, that could be you know.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like I have a past, people I carry within or with me. This is not my whole identity. There's a you, a me, you know, and a we, like, you know, and then there's maybe something about accountability. So, what do you see when you look at me? Okay, I'm already like changing what you were singing, Patricia. This is why I record it, because I like forget. Let's maybe listen back. Okay. Let me make sure I've got it. Okay, so what do you see when you look at me? That sound okay to people? I feel like, what do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin. I have a past, people I carry with me. Or it could be just, I have a past I carry with me. Because that's like a little shorter.
Yeah.
This is not my identity. Short again.
Should you have that line first? This is not my whole identity. I have a past I carry with me.
Yeah, we could definitely.
Because it makes maybe more sense.
This is not my whole identity. I have a past I carry with me. And then, you know, there's, or like, I have a past I carry with me. You know, or maybe I want to sing about, we've got this accountability. I just almost I feel like starting with I feels good though. I like that idea. I have a past I carry with me. This is not my whole identity. Let's see. My whole identity. Like, I want there to be, I don't know if this like fits. I want there to be accountability, or I don't know if that's. Let's see, then we have to get to like the chorus. So So, okay, so because I just realized it's like a quarter after. So we only have like 15 minutes. La, 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 la. Okay. What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, the color of my skin. I have a past I carry with me. This is not my whole identity. I want there to be accountability. And
Maybe it can be, I want there to be accountability. Like wait a bit, and then
like
Or
say-
you could just say, I want accountability. You could take away that to be.
I want accountability, kind of like that, like holding it out a bit.
Maybe that's a shot. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what you were thinking, Camilla? Kind of holding it out.
yeah, I don't know, that could work also.
I want accountability. So you can see how we can, like, there's just so much that we can keep building on, but this at least gives us kind of an idea. I wanted to get to like a chorus also, but let's see. Sure. So if we're in A minor, there's a
You could have we are past, present, and future. You could have, there is a past, present, and future me. And then you could and future me.
Yeah, yes, I mean, I think that is kind of
That's more personal.
thing about it.
Me.
There's so we could even just have like, let's see. And then past, present, and future me. What if we even just, we could just chant, like, we could even chant like there's a. Could even be like, what if we even took and made each of those a line? There's a past, like, version of me. There's a present, you know. There's a past me, a present, and there could be each one line. Like there's a past version of me, there's a present version of me. Like there's a future. Yeah. Okay, so there's obviously like lots of different. Like I'm just looking at the time though. So maybe what if we just sing kind of this first kind of verse that we have, and then we could just chant, you know, we can just chant. There's a past, there's a present, you know, there's a future me.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And something about what we want to be, you know.
I'm just kind of throwing something in there, but we can. I think we can do is just like, if you want to unmute, we can sing, and then if you want to just words come to you for like chorus, I'll just can strum. And then at least we have something that you see this, kind of how this starts to come to be, and we get to sing together.
Maybe that I decide who I want to be. Maybe that could be a question. Can I decide who I want to be?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. There's and we can have a line about why do you decide? Can I decide? I mean, there's so much, but let's just try singing. Let's just try singing and just see what, you can just sing, lines that come to you. Okay? So I'm just gonna
I'll do the shake it.
All right, so. What do you see when you look at me? What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin. I have a past I carry with me. This is not my whole identity. I want accountability. We could really this is a fun one to wail on, and then we can do some kind of there's a past, there is a present, there's a future me. Can I decide who I want to be? And then you can go back. What do you see when you look at me? Do you judge me by what you see? My hair, my height, the color of my skin. I have a past to carry with me. This is not my whole identity. I want accountability. There is a past. There's a present. There's a future me. Can I decide who I want to be? Okay, something like that.
Would that work better? There is a past, a present, a future me. Can I decide who I want to be?
Yeah.
There's two last.
A present, a future me. Can I decide?
If that would be better for the melody. Just the two lines then,
Yeah. There's a past, a present, a future me. Can I decide who I want to be? And there could be silence before that. And then you come back to that. And then the second verse goes on. And we've got so much that we can finish the song and have it all.
And you can have the different lines of, do you decide do you decide who?
Yeah. And you could also, Evan was talking about wanting to kind of have, each verse from a different perspective. The chorus can change. I mean, it's nice in some ways if it's the same because people learn it, especially if English isn't their first language, you learn it. But you can also have a chorus where it says, there's a past, a present, a future me. And maybe one of the early choruses is you're deciding who you want me to be. And then maybe at the end, there's kind of more of this agency. There could be, can I decide? And then at the very end, I decide. And it's not a question anymore, but it's, so that's just kind of one idea. You can see how there's so many different avenues that you can go through. But I'm noticing that we have 8 minutes left, and I just want to open it up and have some time for people to just talk about, if they have questions or just what it was like to just kind of go through this process and get a bit of a taste. And I see there's lots and lots in the chat, so I don't know.
Yeah, there's Patricia's voice, beautiful. Lana says it's beautiful. Lorraine says it's amazing.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, so, and then does anyone want to unmute and just like talk a little bit or ask a question? You know, you're very welcome.
I just want to say, I love the process. It really makes it more real to what you and Patricia went through, and I love this sort of how we have all these different perspectives, and coming into the to the final product. Yeah, I think it's just really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing like just so much. I mean, I wish that we could, I mean, I think we can finish this song. And I don't know if we'll all get to be together in the space, but I'd be happy to keep working on it. And if anybody would like to, I think we can share in the chat. I don't know if I can share. Oh, here. I don't know if you now see my chat, but I can share our let's see, anywhere that you go, like in social media land, we're just at Guiding Song. And so if you want to reach out, I'm happy to share my email here. I just maybe don't like pass it around to everyone in the world, but I would love to hear from you.
I actually like want to reflect. So yeah, I mean, I'm mindful of time, but I would love to see the song get some, I don't know. I feel like it's, Patricia's song is like the Migration Summit songs, but I think like we also kind of build something great here. For example, I wasn't expecting to be like contributing because like, I wasn't really sure like who was joining, and I don't know, like I never, wrote a song or anything like, but I really like singing. I'm listening to music all the time, but it's not that I sing well, but I just loved like how easy yet complex it is to because like I felt, you were just typing and we were just sharing, and like getting to an idea like, was kind of simple. And so yeah, I enjoyed a lot the process. And I mean, I would be up to contributing to getting somewhere with this.
So, I mean, if anyone who wants to keep working on the song with us, I mean, so if you send me an email, I can send a group email and happily share this Google Doc, and we can shape it together. We could always meet again, because we have this one benefit of this virtual space is that we can all meet. I mean, a drawback is we're not together in person, which is always really nice, but it's totally possible. And so, I mean, I think Camilla, also you touched on something that I think is really important about participatory arts and this method is that it's meant to be really accessible. And I think it can be really transformative, especially like I hear you saying you don't have a good voice, which is not true. You have a beautiful voice. I could hear it. But I also when I was young, like little, even smaller Marika, I would sing all the time. And then at some point I kind of learned that I didn't have a good voice and I stopped sharing my voice. And so I think this is a powerful tool for just kind of supporting people in sharing spoken voice, singing voice, stepping into that, just the role of being a musician or an artist, which maybe, you don't think you have the capacity to do, but you do. Like it's built into us. So I think that's a really, I'm so glad.
Yeah, definitely. My grandma thinks I'm a great singer. Like the other day I was singing with my grandma and she was like, did you sometimes sing to the artist of this song for him to hear about it? I was like, well, like, how do I have access to it? But oh my God, it was hilarious. But yeah.
Yeah. But I think, and the more that we share our voices, like there's such a power in all the voices together. Yeah.
Do you ever have many versions of the same song, or like the different melodies? You started on a nice one and then Patricia had another. Do you ever record and just collect like 5 versions of the same song?
That would be so fun. Like we could do that, right? I mean, we could, and that's something also that a folk song. I mean, it's kind of a folk song, right? It's written from the stories of folk, people. And you might write a song and say, well, it's finished, but then as soon as someone else sings it, they sing it their own way. And when I was working at a national park years ago in Massachusetts, which was it was the first industrial city, so where women came from the farms and were weaving on looms. And I wrote a song from the oral history of a factory worker who was the child of immigrants who had come to then replace the women from workers. But I wrote this song, and then like someone found this song from YouTube and recorded it and sang it differently and sent it back to me. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, because we each make it our own, but it would be a really neat thing to just, here's the text for the song that we've written. And then each person can devise, their own melody from their own voice. And it could be an infinite thing, right? It just goes around the world and people write their own melody. The sky's the limit. I mean, that's why I say, like, this is how we write a song, using story to song. But then it's just each time it's just different, and because everybody has a different approach and voice and ideas.
One thing I found really fun, Patricia's song, I just played it on 1.5 times once, and I actually liked it a lot better. It's a little bouncy song.
Oh, wait, is that like faster?
Yeah, I just sped it up 1.5, and I kind of liked it better.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's like also, I mean, and that's again, like, I wrote that song with Patricia, and Sarah, and that was in a pretty short time because we had the Experience Displacement panel coming up within days. But there's so many different things you can do when you're working on one of these songs. And one is that you can play with different rhythms and see how it feels to play in like a swing or faster or slower. When Patricia's saying these, what do you see when you look at me, my hair, my height, the color of my skin, it was slower. So maybe that may be Patricia, kind of part of how her voice comes out. I don't know. I mean, we could get Patricia on and talk more about that if we had more time. But for now, it's just, I think like, again, that's a neat way to kind of experiment with. And when I work with people on songs, I will try, like, what if we try playing this in, so we were doing it in a minor key, but then what if you do it in like A major? And then try like you get a totally different feel, minor versus major. And, how does that feel? And playing a different chord or a different word. So, we're at the end. So I want to thank Lorraine and Camilla and Lana and just all of the many people that make this Migration Summit possible, and just for the incredible support. Sarah, do you want to chime in and say something just before we end?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing. And you see what way, with the song or with the poem, you sort of, you really don't know where you're going to end up. It's like it has its life of its own, and then it goes out into the world. We all carry it with us a little bit. We can all be singing it, we can all be thinking of it. And that's the wonderful thing about it. You sort of create the space, and you just don't know what's going to happen, and then something magical does happen with the creative process, with everybody joining in. So
And I also love that this was a safe space, not only for the creation of the song, but just like, I think we touched a lot of strong points and concepts, like about life, about beliefs, personal from others. And so, I'm glad to see like other people feeling that way too. I'm really looking forward for next steps too. So I'll be with you.
Yeah, so keep in touch. You can find us Guiding Song, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. guidingsong.com is the website, and I put my email in there. And please also just remember that there's so many more sessions in the Migration Summit. So I don't know if we've got like, I think I have. I'll stop screen share, and just in the chat I can share the. I think we have just like a link so you can kind of join this Migration Summit newsletter.
I can share the agenda over here if you want.
Here, I've got a few links really quick. And like, good. So thank you everyone so much for joining. And we'll see you in the virtual musical space again soon.
Bye, have a great rest of your day.
Bye.